Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to episode 3. First of all, I need to say sorry. I know I did not drop anything last week, and I remember saying in the first video I ever made was, oh, I'm gonna try my best to put out, an episode every Saturday. Guys, honestly, Ramadan has started, and the first week of Ramadan, I just I have no energy to do anything. The only thing I have the energy for is to breathe. So that's why there was a delay, and I can only apologize for that. But I'm here. I found the energy. We're halfway through Ramadan. And yeah, I'm bringing you some Scarlet Witch gameplay in Marvel Rivals. And before anyone comes for me, yes, I know, she takes no skill. She's this, she's that. But to be fair, I feel like I kind of cooked in this game with her, and I do enjoy playing with her. But I will agree, I do wish her damage was a bit better. So, anyways, let's get into it. So, the title of this episode is Not Even Water. I'm calling it almost like a Ramadan special because, guys, I need a show of hands, yeah? So, what are we like on halfway through Ramadan right now, yeah? How many times have you guys, for those people that have been fasting, how many times have you guys been asked, not even water? Not even water? Not even water? Okay, I just want to make like a public service announcement, yeah, for all of my like non-Muslims out there. I love you guys, but yes, not even water. We are not allowed to drink water. We are not allowed to have any food. But can I just say, yeah? So I was having a little discussion basically with one of my friends and a couple of my colleagues, and we were fasting, and we were generally just talking about the fact that it's been almost 30 years sort of growing up in the UK, and it's not like Ramadan is something new. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it comes, every year it happens. Where I'm from, there's hella diversity. We went to school with like white kids, non-Muslims, and you would generally think by now people get it. Like, people understand that, yeah, you know what, they fast and they're not allowed to have water or food and they abstain. But you know what? No one gets it. Like, every year I feel like I'm a stuck record, yeah, where I have to ask, like, I have to answer the most like dumbest questions. And even just thinking about it right now, it's kind of making me mad, because you kind of think to yourself, like, you can't be serious. Like, you actually can't be serious. So, like, before I get into it, just to sort of put it out there, Ramadan is a time, it's the holy month where Muslims, we fast for 30 days. And, during the daylight hours, we abstain from food and water. We also abstain from, any sort of sexual acts. We abstain from swearing and, all sorts of like unholy things, basically. But for some reason, everyone always, wants to know about how are we surviving? How do we do this? And I'll be honest with you guys, we just do it. Like, honestly, for me personally, after the first 5 days, I think usually it takes me a week just to get used to it. I don't even feel it. Like, it doesn't bother me. I'm just like, it is what it is. But this year especially, I noticed that people still have no idea what actually happens in Ramadan. Like 2 days ago, someone's asking me, oh, so you guys don't eat for like 30 days straight? And when I tell you guys, yeah, my eyes must have rolled so far back in my head, because I was just looking at this guy and I was like, are you for real? Like, are you serious right now? Like, and I said to him, I was like, my brother, if anyone went 30 straight days without food, do you really think they'd be alive? And he went, oh, yeah, you make a point. And I was like, exactly. So, again, another public service announcement. We are allowed to eat from sunset to sunrise. So, during like the daytime, so after the sun has risen, we do not eat or drink, right? After sunset, so at the moment it's around 6 o'clock, give or take a few minutes, wherever, depending on your location. From that time, I can eat my body weight in food should I choose to do so. But you'll find that you can't because despite, not having anything to eat or drink, when it is time to open the fast, you'll have like one date and suddenly you're full. Now, with this episode, I don't really want to talk much about sort of like the food and not being able to drink, that kind of thing. I feel like anyone with common sense understands that. I want to talk about the other side of Ramadan that I feel like we don't really speak or touch up on a lot, and that is the sleep. Now, for me personally, I don't know about you guys, but sleep during Ramadan has me wired. Like, I have no sleeping routine. My sleeping pattern goes out the window. Luckily for me, what I try to always do is I save like my annual leave from work so that at least I can get, like the first week and possibly the last week off, just so that, I can get used to it. And then the last week, just to sort of close it off, and get ready for Eid and stuff. But I find that, when I have to go to work and, previous years where I've had to do the absolute most, to adjust and keep myself alive. Like, I remember there was one time where I worked in prep and the shift started at like 4 a.m. So I remember that whole Ramadan, I would literally stay awake from like sahur all the way to like 1 p.m. I'd come home at 1 p.m. and then I would literally just crash out all the way until iftar. And I felt so bad because I was like, wow, like, I'm wasting my whole Ramadan, I'm not getting to pray, not really, able to take advantage of everything. And I remember I did ask the manager to be like, look, please, try to understand, I'm trying to enjoy this holy month. Is there any way that, maybe I could do a later shift? Because I have no problem. Like, I'd rather sleep and then, I don't know, like open my iftar at work rather than sort of sleep the whole day. And it got me thinking about how, the adjustments I had to make at so many different jobs. I remember when I worked in retail, I ended up, like, my manager he just didn't understand it. He did not understand Ramadan at all. He did not understand the fact that we woke up, at early hours of the morning, and then we would basically, try to get back to sleep if we could. So this guy was making me come in at 6 a.m. in the morning for like delivery shifts. And I kept telling him, I said it really nicely. I was like, look, please, please stop making me come on these shifts. Because I remember this was, I think, around the time of summer, and sahur time was like, I think, around 3 a.m. or something. So it was quite hard, to kind of balance everything, because iftar was opening at like 9:30, and then obviously, like after Tarawih and everything, by the time you get home, it's like you try to sleep for like maybe 3-4 hours, and then you have to wake up for sahur, and you're just fried basically. So I was literally begging this guy, like, please, let me just come in at like 11 a.m. I'm happy with the closing shift. But he just did not get it. And I remember getting into the biggest argument with him because I was like, bro, how can you be making me do this? I'm literally trying to explain to you that I am finding it really, really difficult due to the lack of sleep. Like, it wasn't even about the food or water. And, there was other jobs where I remember I did night shift, and that wasn't so bad in terms of like fasting wise, because generally I was awake sort of like the whole night. But it was the ridiculous questions. I remember this particular job really got on my nerves, because people were asking me all sorts of stupidness. I remember one of my colleagues that I worked with, so I had just closed my fast, and one of the managers must have walked in and said, oh, like, you're eating quite late or something like that. And then my colleague was like, yeah, he's like starving himself. And I was just like, you know what, it's little comments like that that really get on my nerves. Like, it really grinds my gears, because I'm not here starving myself. And I remember telling this guy, like, I understand if you don't get why we do this, and I get, if you find it hard, but you can keep the comments, to yourself. And even recently, so I'm doing like a master's at uni, and the uni is like 2 hours away. So normally I drive, but this time, like generally due to sleep, because it takes me ages to get there, even by car, I wasn't able to like drive, so I ended up getting the train. And obviously, I find I'm pretty healthy, so I didn't want to be like, I don't want to fast and stuff. But I remember even before Ramadan started, having the conversation about, I said to my tutor, I was like, oh, just to let you know, like Ramadan is coming, and I was wondering if there was any possible way to avoid, the 2.5 hour journey, because obviously it's difficult enough, when I can eat or drink, because literally, like, I remember every Tuesday, I would have like one can of Monster or a cup of coffee or something to keep myself awake, because I don't know, when you drive for a very long time and it's just a straight road. I don't know about you guys, but for me, I end up like zoning out, and I can end up falling asleep. So the caffeine kind of keeps me awake. But imagine, like, so after I've had this conversation with this woman, she she just didn't get it. And them ones where they just kind of laugh. So she kind of went, "Oh, it must be a really difficult time, ha 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 ha." And I was like, "Yeah, it is. So is there anything that you can do? Because in 2025, a lot of the stuff is online. I mean, I work from home for 3 days anyway. So, and I said to her, like, would it be possible for me to just join the lecture online? Is there anything, like that I can do? Because I don't really want to travel." And she was like, "Oh, unfortunately, there's nothing really we can do, but, and I went, I get that, but like, I don't want to, put myself through the most during that journey, because I know it's going to be hard, especially with the sleep. Like, my main concern was the sleep. Now, let me tell you guys, yeah, I fell asleep. So I did it. So I went on Tuesday, took the 2 hours of the train. So I went from Farringdon to Stratford. From Stratford, I went all the way to like the end of England, and the whole way, like, I'm just falling asleep, falling asleep. Now I'm sat in lecture, and I just fell asleep in the middle of lecture. And I don't know if the lecturer noticed or not, but I just knocked out, and then I jerked and I woke up again, and I was like, oh crap, like I fell asleep. Then during my whole lunch hours, we've got an hour for lunch, I remember I just threw my jacket over me and I just fell asleep like on the desk because I was so tired. But I'll give it to them. They did allow me to sort of leave early, but I'll be honest with you, I was like, that's pretty much like the bare minimum, I guess. But it was so difficult because I didn't feel hungry or thirsty. I was so sleepy, and I remember like I left at 3. Lecture was meant to finish at 5, but I left early, and had to wait for like the train to come. And I remember just standing there, and I was like falling asleep, and I was just thinking like, I am never doing this ever again, because when I got home, I must have literally like knocked out, I didn't change out of my clothes, nothing. I just dropped on my bed and I must have just fallen asleep. Like, I made it back for iftar. I just, I prayed Maghrib and that's it. I just knocked out and I was so tired, and I literally like, I said to like my siblings, I was like, I'm never ever doing that again, because that was just too much. And it just really got me thinking, because then I started seeing videos of like on my feed of like Muslim countries, places like Middle East, and quite a few around Qatar, and just how how different the vibe of Ramadan is in those countries. And it just got me thinking like how nice it would be to maybe experience Ramadan in a Muslim country where you wouldn't have to continuously explain your reasonings for fasting and why you're fasting, and even sleep may not be an issue, because like I don't know how true it is, but someone was telling me how Qatar has basically adjusted their whole timing to match Ramadan. And I was thinking, how nice would that be to basically just start work at like Sahur, finish at Zohar time, come home, pray Zohar, have a nice little nap, wake up for Asr, Maghrib, open iftar. And I remember like when I went back home to Pakistan during Ramadan, it was very difficult, I won't lie, because the heat was, because I went in summer, so it was like nearly 40 to 45 degrees. And like my auntie and uncles were like, no, don't fast, because you won't be able to handle it, and plus you're traveling, so technically you're kind of exempt for now. And So I didn't really do it, but I could see like the struggle they were going through. But one thing I really, really loved about it was the fact that everything was open. So after like it got to iftar, these guys would come home at around Zohar, then they would go to sleep. They'd wake up and stuff, open their fast, and then the whole town was just open, and everyone's gone to read Tarawih. And once they've read Tarawih, you've got loads of food places open, everyone's socializing and just like talking. And I was like, wow, like this is such an experience. Whereas in the UK, from the experience, I mean, this whole channel is about the brown experiences, I guess. I find that we are all just stressed about, oh, I've got work tomorrow, I need to get to sleep. Like at the moment, obviously, because I do 9 to 5, I am having to, so like sort of pray Isha, which is around 8 o'clock, go to sleep, wake up for Suhoor, which is at the moment around 4 a.m. sort of time. And then it's a case of, okay, do I risk it? Do I risk going to sleep for 2 hours? Or do I firm it and stay awake until 5 p.m., 6 p.m., come home? And it's just that constant level of, like you're just constantly stressing about, how much sleep you're going to get. And I just want like people to understand that, like, it would be so helpful, if you could just allow us to maybe adjust our timings just so that, we don't maybe pass out and die due to lack of sleep. I mean, I don't really want to be driving around and then, have an accident on the M25, because that would not be the best thing. But I also want to know, like, how are your lot's experiences? How have you found Ramadan? How's it going? What kind of questions have you been asked? Because I know for a fact, like, I've seen plenty of videos where people have been saying that they feel like a stuck record, being asked not even water and all these weird questions. And I do think to myself, like, what, even in school, like, I feel like they didn't get it. I mean, school was pretty good. I mean, my school generally, because it was majority Muslim, they adjusted the timetable, so they would shorten lunch and then we'd get to go home early. But back then, the fasts were opening around 4 p.m. anyway, because it was winter time. But I remember like one story from school where, so in junior school, which is like year 3 to 6, I remember I used to fast, and I think I was in year 3 or 4, and I just wanted to fast basically, and my parents didn't have a problem with it. So I remember I was fasting, and I must have fasted for like a whole week, and I kept going home for lunch. I had absolutely no idea that I was not allowed to be doing this, and apparently if you were fasting, you have to let the teachers know that you were fasting. So I remember, like, I went home, I came back, and I'm, like, I'm just in my own world, walking back to school, and I just see the big boss dinner lady standing at the school gates, and I'm thinking, bro, like, like, am I in trouble? And she goes to me like, oh, what's your name? And I told her my name. Imagine, guys, this woman took me, like, I think I was like, what, 7, 8 years old. She took me to the receptionist's office. They asked me where I had been, and I was like, oh, I'm fasting, and like, I thought we were allowed to go home for lunch and stuff, so that's where I went. And they were like, oh, but you didn't sign the form, you didn't tell us that you'd be fasting and this. And I was like, look, I didn't even know that I had to sign a form. I just thought it was okay. But this is a core memory I had, because I remember this woman took me to the cafeteria and she stood there, and I started crying because what they had literally told me was, break your fast. And I remember the receptionist going, break your fast, sweetheart. And I was like, bro, I'm not breaking my fast. I don't care what you like make you, like, you can expel me, I am not breaking my fast. And I remember standing in the cafeteria like little kid me, and I was crying because I was like, oh, I don't want to break my fast. And then all my friends were coming around and they were like, what's wrong? And I was like, oh, they're telling me to break my fast and I don't want to break my fast. And it's just memories like that where I think, wow, like, imagine if we had, being in a Muslim country, no one would ever tell me break your fast. And I still remember that. It's like a core memory for me. But yeah, it's a wild time, and I just, I wish people would understand that, like, we as Muslims, we love Ramadan. Like, I don't know about you guys, but for me, Ramadan, I love it when Ramadan starts, because it is just my time to, focus on basically me, but the spiritual side. I get to read more Quran, I get to focus more on my prayers, and just build that discipline. And I really wish, people would see it from that side. the discipline that we are building, and the habits that we are trying to break, and the goodness that we are trying to gain, whether it's like starting something new, or breaking certain habits. I mean, I know how many people, like so many of my friends who would smoke cigarettes, etc. When Ramadan came, it really helped them to break that habit. And I just find that there's so much goodness in this month, but it can be very difficult. And for me personally, it's, I'll say it again, it's just the sleep, guys. It's not the water. It is not the water, nor is it the food. It is just the sleep. And I just feel like it is, it's about time that, everyone understood that Google is free. Feel free to Google and understand Ramadan. But guys, that is it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And I will try. I will try to post another one next week. It all depends. I'm quite busy. I'm trying to do a master's, and I'm, working really hard. And Ramadan is starting as well. But I really hope you enjoyed this video. And let me know in the comments what you thought. Tell me your experiences with Ramadan. And I hope you see you next week. Bye.